Hey everyone, I'm going to go over the build that I used to get the first level 100 Iris to the new character on the battle path. So I'm going to go over it, and once I'm done, I'll jump into like a Timemark 8 to show you guys what to expect once you've put the build together. Now, first thing I want to say is I didn't start Erosion, I did the story with Fire. And the main three skills I used was Elemental Duo, Spell Conk, and Servant Damage, I think. I didn't really have these open. Same stuff here, different curse and different auras. So that's what I did in the story. And once I got to maps, I switched to Erosion. And these are the links we use. We have Summon Erosion Magnus, Elemental Duo, Passive Vision, Savage Growth, Servant Damage, and Harvest Time. We have Dazzling Bloom. You don't need to rush this, but I got a reduce support cooldown by 35%. The triggers Demolisher Charge means nothing to us. It's actually a benefit that this doesn't work for us, so we still have full control over our Dazzling Bloom, but we get the benefit of 35% cooldown recovery on it, which is actually even better than the cooldown recovery support. So now we have double that there and a mass effect. We have our Corruption with Terror and Malice, Preparation, cooldown recovery, and extended duration. And the reason we have this was set up because once upon a time, before we got Precise Amplification, we were using Grudge over Harvest Time to get the paralysis. But once we got the precise version, we no longer needed the paralysis from Grudge. We can actually probably remove the extended duration or something here as well and move the point somewhere else. We're moving over to Nourishment of Life, Preparation. And then we have our Frost Spirit Magnus, and it's important to put this on your skill bar and not your passives. And I'll go over that later in the build when we get into the combat. So we have support Frost Magnus with Fiend of Spirit Magnet, Protection Field, and Superpower. Keep in mind, these things make it cost a lot more. You may not be able to slam them on right away until you have some of the gear, skill levels, or just our candles. Finally, on our auras, we have the Precise Weapon Amp. If you don't have Precise, you can just use regular Weapon Amp and use Grudge instead of Harvest Time. We went over that. We have Restrain, Aura Amp, Increased Area. Increased Area is not helping the aura, but this is part of the off the beaten track to reduce its cost to squeeze more auras on. Same thing for here. We have the Precise Erosion Amp. Again, you can use regular Erosion Amp. It's not a big deal. Seal Conversion, Restrain, and the Area, again, to synergize with off the beaten track. Finally, we have Spell Amplification or Amp Restrain, Increased Area. Surprise, surprise. Finally, we were using Swiftness while we were in the story and leveling. Alternatively, you can also use Rejuvenation if you feel you want to be more life sustain and keep your minions up more, but I was using Swiftness with Restrain and or Amp. For my candles, you're looking for, the main thing you want here is 8% sealed mana. You can get it in the form of 2 4s spread across the board if you don't want to get a tier 1. And then whatever good mods you can slam on the bottom. Super budget, the cheapest you can get, or go farm yourself is ideal here. You don't want to overspend. These aren't GG candles. These are just enough to get by. Then you got an aura effect, cooldown recovery, and minion. Again, just the best thing I had available. Super free, and I ran with it. I didn't look back because it was too much time to go find better options. Okay, then we're going to jump into the gear. So we have Fiend Crowned. Now, I don't know the current price. I picked it up. I knew it was overpriced when I picked it up for 50 FE, but I know now it's around 10 to 20. It's a good pickup, and you should grab it when you can. This is the ladies' tiers. The corruption I landed is pretty nice. It's not the end of the world if you don't have the corruption, so don't freak out. You get these for free from the treasure trove. The last treasure trove you did in the story, just before the final boss of the story. You just go there, farm it once or twice, and it'll keep dropping these tiers. You want to get multiple copies so you can corrupt them. If you really, really want the corruption, you can just farm it till you have like 10 copies and corrupt them all, and you'll probably land something good. So definitely go get the ladies' tiers for free from the treasure trove. All right, we got a belt here. This is all tier 2 gear. That's what you're aiming for. Tier 2 gear, you get around, start getting it at item level 82, and it's cheap to craft for flame sand all the way up to gear level 85. So that's the sweet range you're looking for, 82 to 85. And then you're like looking to land tier 2 mods of everything I'm going to show you. So on the belt, we have max energy shield, minion damage, max life, erosion resistance, elemental resistance, and initial growth. On the rings, we're looking for max energy shield, intelligence, minion damage, minion cast speed, minion critical strike rating, and whatever resistance you need to balance yourself out. For our main hand weapon, we are going with a cane, and this is to synergize with isomorphic arms. We want to increase the base damage on this as much as possible because we're sending it over to our minion, who now will have a bigger base damage to use all these multipliers we're stacking. So that's the idea behind starting cane. Is this the best? Honestly, I haven't tested every single weapon against every other weapon yet, but this is what I'm working on. The theory of I want to get base damage sent to my minions. So we have our cane. You're looking for gear physical, adds physical damage to gear, and intelligence at the top, physical damage, erosion damage, and life regain at the bottom. For your chest, you're looking for intelligence, gear energy shield, elemental resistance, cold resistance. Honestly, just once you have the elemental resistance, same thing as everywhere else. It doesn't matter the resistance as long as you balance yourself out. You can spread, pick cold over here and bring the fire over here. The point is just balance them out. Over here we have our gloves, gear energy shield, minion damage, and minion attack speed, cast speed, sorry. And then same thing, balance your resistance, erosion, cold, lightning, whatever you need. Finally, we have mind infusion boots. You want to make sure you have a +2, as fast movement speed as you can get. Everything else doesn't matter at all. As long as you can get a +2 and as close to as high movement speed, that's what you're aiming for. And they're really cheap. So I think it's like 1.5 FE at most. So definitely pick those up. Over here, we have another ring. Same thing as the other ring. It's intelligence, max energy shield, minion damage, minion crit, and resistance to balance out. Finally, we have our rod. And this is the opposite of a cane. We don't need the physical damage in our offhand because isomorphic arms doesn't bring your offhand, only your main hand. So all these stats over here are dead if we had it on our offhand. So we're using a rod. And as you can see, because this is essentially a stat stick now, we're getting all the minion mods we can get. Intelligence, physical damage to minions, minion damage, minion erosion, minion cast speed, and minion crit rating. All right. We're going to jump into our talents. We started off with God of Machine. We went through the damage line, the cast speed line, crit line. Over here we have minion damage. We have ultimate damage and cooldown recovery. We have more damage and skill level. And then you don't really need this, but I really like my move speed. So we went for the move speed nodes. We picked up orders. And as I've mentioned a few times, isomorphic arms. We've now moved over to Alchemist. We got some minion max life down here. This helps scale the regeneration. More life equals more regeneration. More regeneration equals they stay alive longer. They stay alive longer, they deal more damage, right? So we're going for the life down here. We got attack and cast speeds. We got chance to deal ailments and movement speed at the top here. We got critical strike rating and crit damage down here. We have minion damage and ultimate damage. We have another over here. We went this way first. And we got the +1 spirit mastery level, minus 80% additional damage taken, followed by sealed mana compensation for the Magnus, and 10% of damage transferred. At the top, we grabbed Source, followed by Talons of the Abyss. We ended up on the Warlock tree, surprise! And we got a bunch of damage, cast speed, more damage, cooldown recovery with the max charges, energy shield can't be interrupted, and we ended off with all skill levels over here. We go for Indifference to get all skill levels. And as I've mentioned a few times, off the beaten track. This build relies on this. It's built around it. You can't get all these auras on without it. And once you have this, just because you have it, you still can't put all the auras on if you're all like level 16 skill level supports, and it won't work. You need to have your supports leveled up. You need to have either the helmet or the candles going. It's a hard balancing act, but once you figure it out, you'll be able to get them all on. Just keep playing around with it, and I promise you, eventually, you will be able to activate all the stuff. All right. As for my slates, well, these aren't the best slates. The ideal I was looking for was trying to get as much movement speed, regeneration, and some defensive layers. I'll show them to you, but honestly, these are not the optimal thing you're aiming for at all. But this is what I did use, and it got the job done. So over here, we ended up with some minion damage and crit. Over here, we had this mod. It's just a really good slate. I had to brand something for Path of Progress, so I just branded it. This mod actually doesn't really do much or anything for us because we don't really trigger it, and we don't have focus activation yet. But everything else is nice. We got the movement speed, energy shield, and the brands, or like whatever. So here we got movement speed aura effect. We got movement speed with regen and some energy shield. Here we have minion damage and aura effect, and movement speed and origin of spirit energy. All right, as for our talents, we went down to Whirlwind, Tango, Happiest Reunion, and I'll be honest, right now I'm jumping back and forth between Merging Stream and Nurturing Breeze. I did level with Nurturing Breeze just to have that defensive layer to keep me alive. This does deal more damage. You are a little squishier. As far as your minions staying alive in my current gear state, they're about equal. And yeah, so I'm jumping back and forth. I recommend you jump back and forth, feel which one you find better. This is more defensive. This is more damage. Over here, you want an intelligence memory. To try and get the best minion or defensive stats you can find. Ignore everything that's not minion or defensive. Here you want energy shield. Same thing. You want as much minion or defensive stats as you can get. And finally, you're looking for a minion minion cast speed, preferably. But I ended up with this one. Or alternatively, you can throw on a movement speed one. I don't even have one. So yeah, that's what you're aiming for. Movement speed would be the best while you're leveling. Cast speed's optimal for damage. And then again, same deal, as much minion or defensive layers as you can get. All right, so I believe that's everything. We went over that. We went over that. We went over that. We went over that. So that's the build, everybody. Now, the way we play it, and we said I was going to go over this, is I don't actually jump into the erosion minion, even though he's all my damage, and then I don't control the guy. I don't do that. I don't think that's wise, because me stopping my movement to control the minion is actually, in my opinion, a loss of DPS when I can just be running and they're automated. So what I do is I jump in the Frost minion, since the Frost minion is just kind of there to support anyway. So I jump in the Frost minion and I run around with that while my erosion minions are dealing all the damage, and they're getting full buffs, full benefits of as if I was merged with them, and I don't have to do anything. I just run. They're fully automated, no downtime, 100% uptime until, cooldown recoveries or whatever. And that's good to go. So we're going to jump into tier 8. I'll show you some gameplay. We are juicing it a little bit. We got the compasses going in. We're going to just randomly roll it. Does that a dome? I don't like that one, so we'll try again. And here you go. Now, you probably can go higher than tier 8. I don't really see the need at the moment for what I'm farming. If I'm not going to go to profound, I'm not going to force myself to go to 8-2 right now. So I'm just going to chill around in 8s and farm. So you will see it's a little overpowered for 8s at the moment, even though I'm still sitting in my tier 2 gear. I have no tier 1 gear. Haven't crafted any of that stuff yet. This is super, super cheap build. You can put it together with the Fiend Crown. It's probably the most expensive part of the build you would need to buy. Tier 2 crafting's, in my opinion, free if you do it yourself. And you can get the necklace for free, as I explained, from the treasure trove. The boots are really, really cheap. If you don't want to wait for them to drop yourself, you could just pick them up for 1 to 5. So we'll add that to the cost. And that's it. There you go. You got yourself a tier 8 farming Vigilant Breeze Iris that apparently can get first 100. All right. All right, guys. Hopefully this helped. Hopefully you enjoyed this. As always, this is still a work in progress. This is not an end game build. So if you have any questions, suggestions, or anything like that, leave them in the comments below. And I will be streaming every day live on Twitch at twitch.tv/MikeOneUp. I will put a link in the comments. Be sure to hit that link. Come join me every day. Shoot your questions there. You will get an instant reply. And if you have any upgrades or ideas to point me in the right direction where we're going next, you can come there and hang out and we can work together. All right, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.